and the process begins. Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome back to 65 Fab. I've now treated the both the tailgate frame and the tailgate skin with deoxidine, and I've then washed that off and dried it thoroughly with air. And so the next thing, that's been parked, the top skin. This one we can now start repairing, and the deoxidine will stop flash rusting. It does certainly change its colour, but it stops the flash rusting, and allows me to just work on the bare metal for a while. So looking at where we begin, I've kind of decided that I'm going to tackle this corner first. Most of the steel along here is actually good, so it gives us a good base to fix the flanges, etc. all from. However, this section in here is pretty much gone. So because we want a nice frame with good steel, I'm going to repair this first and then probably work into this corner. But by repairing the frame, I'm hoping that gives us enough to work with to do the flanges, etc. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'll start making a pattern for this and let's get into it. I've now made the first of the patches, and you'll see it's quite an odd shape, and that's because I've been trying to save as much of the good steel as possible while taking out everything here that's been compromised by rust. What that does mean is I've had to clamp the frame down to the table because it moves very, very easily, right? There's not a lot holding this together now. So to make sure that we've maintained it being nice and straight, I've clamped it down. That in turn means that it's going to be tricky to actually get this patch tacked in. That's two reasons. One, it's difficult while it's clamped to the table, it's difficult to get in from behind and actually plenish out each of the tacks if I'm doing it in TIG. And also, if I'm not connected to the table, it'll twist and move and turn, which means getting it actually tacked in while keeping everything straight is going to be difficult. My thoughts therefore are that what I'm going to try and do is do a little bit more work, make sure this is fitting really closely, get it in place, and then use the MIG just to go around and do as few a number of tacks as possible. So just a few little MIG tacks. I can always grind them off later, but that will keep everything straight and make sure that it's not moving before I go back and start actually doing the rest of the tacking with the TIG. So that's my next step. It's going to be a laborious process to do this. It's going to take a while, but a couple of MIG tacks first, and then we'll get on to moving around. Once it's nice and solid, we'll move around and tack everything else in with the TIG. Well, this is definitely tricky with it moving around quite easily, but I've put these little tacks in, just a few of them, just very light tacks with the MIG, and what that has allowed me to see is when I get this bottom line correctly aligned all the way, it's allowed me now to take the pressure off and have a look and see where this is all sitting. So really what I'm going to do now, in fact I've already broken off a couple of those, and you can see now when it all sits flat I can get a really nice scribe line. So there's probably, for most of this, almost a millimetre that I've got to take off the top here, and then the whole thing will sit flush. So it's been a good little process actually. So I'm going to take these last tacks off now, just grind them away very gently, refit re-sand the edge here just to get that sitting perfectly, and then I think this patch is going to go in really nicely. I've just repaired this little corner, just tapped that out, and I think the whole thing's going to sit. So that's what I'm up to. I'm going to take this patch off and take it over and just very carefully sand that edge again, just to get us that last little millimetre. In a lot of areas it's probably less than a millimetre, but we'll get this to fit perfectly. Taking the time to get this to fit is going to completely change the outcome. So it really is worthwhile taking the time. So that's what I'm doing. Well, this has certainly been a slow process working through this, but all told, since refitting, making a few adjustments to the patch, I've just put these little MIG tacks back in fact some of them are old ones, but they're so shallow I've barely gone through the metal. Like sometimes on the inside there's not even really any penetration. I literally am just hitting it just to hold it in place, because I will tack it in full using the TIG. But all told, the patch itself from a tacking perspective has gone in, which I'm pretty pleased with, because this was a really very weak part of the whole thing. So much had rotted out here, so by putting this back we get our strength back. Importantly, you won't be able to see this in the video, but starting from here, when that's flat on the table, this is right in the middle of it, and if I measure, which I did, and I measured out this sort of slight rise that curves up that way, it still is identical to the other side. So it says We've maintained our curve rather than accidentally, for instance, pushing it flat, which would not be ideal. And all told, it seems to be sitting pretty well. So I think by the time I now go through, and again, this is going to be a slow process because I just want to very gently put a lot of tacks in now with the TIG, just to keep that heat right down. And once I've gone through, I'm just going to keep building up tacks, and eventually we'll get to the point where at very low voltage and amps, we're going to actually come through and we'll seam weld the TIG. All right, I'll keep going, but yeah, I'm kind of happy that we've got this far. And just like that, we've changed the MIG to the TIG. So we're ready to go. I've got the TIG welder here set on quite low amps. It's only 32 amps peak, and then 10 amps ramp up, 10 amps ramp down. That really is low, and ultimately, you know, I'm controlling it with my foot pedal as I'm welding, but this being old steel, I just don't want to take the risk of burning through, so I'd rather just take my time, keep the heat down, and we're just going to work our way around dotting all the little taxing. So quite low amps on the TIG welder there. I've got 3 1.6 inch tungstens ready to go, ground on both ends, because I can guarantee you I'm going to touch the puddle many more times than I should be. And for filler wire, I've prepared a number of these, all these are. This is 0.8mm MIG wire, so I've just spooled it out of the MIG welder. Cleaned them up with some wax and grease remover, because you can never be too careful with TIG. And all going well, hopefully, we're just going to work our way around. Again, it's going to be a long, slow process, so I'll put a little bit of it on time lapse, but I don't think it's going to be all of it, because I think it'd be pretty boring to watch. But I'm going to get into it, and let's see if we can really get this down, get it tacked, get it welded. Well, to say that that took a lot of time would be an understatement. Basically, I've got to the point where I've tacked it all the way around, and then I've planished the tacks. I've ground the tops off them and underneath, and then I've gone around and spent a fair bit of time with the hammer and dolly, just making sure that we've got, you know, a nice flat surface, that everything's pretty much sitting correctly. You know, if I run my thumbnail across these gaps, for the most part, you know, they're pretty close, which is going to help a lot with when we actually come to welding it, which will be tomorrow now, I think. But all told, you know, it's come together. Down this corner, this was really tricky, because while I have to rebuild, it's going to be a while before I come back to this one, but I'm going to have to rebuild this whole little corner. You know, this is really weak material all the way up into here. So it was a big risk of blowing out a couple of little holes here. I blew out one a bit further down here, but using a bit of copper behind, I was able to go back and fill them in. So it's getting there. It's not looking too bad. And we're certainly going in the right direction. I know that it's taking me a lot of time. I'm going super slow, in part because really I'm trapping myself that if I stuff this up, it's going to be hard to come back from it. So I'm just really going slow and just keep going. So next step is to weld it, which I'll do tomorrow with the TIG. One of the things I didn't mention before, where's my gun, is because I'm trying to use very low amperage, I'm using a size 10 cup here, a little gas diffuser inside it, so it's a gas cup. That does make a difference because it allows me to have the tungsten sticking out a little bit further so I can see what I'm doing, and then we can just go along and just do small bursts. Had to stop the video for a second then because I had another plane going overhead. But suffice to say, tomorrow we're going to TIG this in. While ideally you sort of, from a TIG perspective, you want to go from one end to the other, nice and even. Given that there's still some of this steel still being a bit compromised, and so that makes it risky and you could blow holes. I'm going to just basically do it in little 1-inch sections. I'll do 1 inch, cool it down, probably jump up, do 1 inch, cool it down. As long as I keep it cool, I think we can stop most of the deformation. There's another plane I can hear going up above. So I'm just going to keep going, but yes, it's taking a long time, and it does kind of tell me just how long this whole piece is going to take. I think we're going to be here a while. But this corner, this is a hard one, so we'll just keep going, get it welded in, see if we can get it finished off, and then choose the next bit to work on. And this is what we've ended up with. So, all told, now we do have some pretty good solid steel through here. I'd hammer and dollied it down a fair bit to get it reasonably flat, so it's all sitting nicely. But undoubtedly, when everything's done, I'll need to come back and, I'll go through it in detail and try and get it as flat as I can, as close to file finished as I can, because I want to put as little body filler in here as possible. But of course, while I've welded in through here now, we've still got to take this entire corner out. So, this is going to be another cut almost to come and match it. But at the end of the day, we now have a solid corner. So that pretty much says that around the entire frame is pretty solid. So the next step that I'm going to do, very pretty, look at that, is, I think the next one is we'll have a go at starting to work on this flange. I had a couple of comments, people in the comments, and a couple of messages where people have asked to see a little bit more about how I'm creating the patches as much as putting them in. So in the next video, that's what we'll do. I'm going to start building the flanges around the back, and I'll concentrate on the flanges and actually how I'm making them. So that's it for today's video. So again, thanks for joining me. Hit subscribe, hit likes. That helps. And until next time, see you then. Thanks for joining me.